The diplomatic station hung in the darkness between stars, a massive structure of metal and glass where dozens of species met to talk, trade, and pretend they trusted each other. Captain Jack walked through the main corridor with his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes scanning the crowd out of habit. He had been a soldier for 15 years before taking this security position, and old habits died hard. His son Danny walked beside him, eyes wide with wonder as they passed a group of tall, blue-skinned, engaged in conversation. The boy was 8 years old and had arrived on the station 3 days ago for his school break. Jack had promised him a chance to see the galaxy up close, to meet aliens and learn about the worlds beyond Earth. "Dad, look at that one," Danny whispered, pointing at a floating jellyfish-like creature drifting past them. "Does it even have eyes?" "Different species see in different ways," Jack said. "Not everyone needs eyes like ours." They turned a corner and entered the main plaza, a huge open space with shops and restaurants catering to 100 different biological needs. Ambassador Kate Hudson stood near a fountain, speaking with a group of delegates. She saw Jack and gave him a small nod. He returned it and kept walking. Danny tugged on his sleeve. "Can I go look at the model ships in that store?" Jack checked the area, safe enough. The store was 20 meters away in clear view. "Stay where I can see you, 10 minutes. "Thanks, Dad." Danny ran off toward the shop, his excitement obvious in every step. Jack leaned against a pillar and watched his son browse the miniature spacecraft on display. A family from Earth had moved to this sector 2 years ago, and humanity was still new here. The Galactic Council had accepted Earth's application for membership only 5 years back, and many of the older species still treated humans like children who had just learned to walk. A group of reptilian aliens approached the shop. Jack recognized them as a species that had been part of the Council for 3,000 years. They carried themselves with the confidence of those who believed they owned the galaxy. 3 young, probably teenagers by their size, entered the shop where Danny was looking at models. Jack watched as Danny turned to them with a smile, probably trying to be friendly. One of the juveniles leaned down and said something. Danny's smile faded. They laughed, a harsh clicking sound that carried across the plaza. Jack pushed off the pillar and walked toward the shop. By the time he arrived, the 3 were circling Danny, making gestures with their clawed hands. Their scales were dark green, and their yellow eyes reflected no warmth. "Your world only just learned to leave its own star system," one of them hissed in accented but clear English. "My people crossed galaxies while yours were still living in caves." "Soft skin," another one said, reaching out to poke Danny's arm. "No claws, no scales. How does your species even survive?" Danny stepped back, looking around for his father. Jack appeared in the doorway. "Danny, come here." The boy hurried to his father's side. The juveniles watched with amusement. "Is this your sire?" the tallest one asked. "He looks weak too." Jack met the juvenile's eyes for a long moment. They stared back, challenging. Jack had faced down warlords and pirates in his military career. A teenager with scales did not impress him. But this was a diplomatic station, and he had rules to follow. "Let's go, Danny." They left the shop. Behind them, they made clicking sounds that might have been laughter. "Why were they so mean?" Danny asked as they walked back toward their quarters. "Not everyone will be friendly," Jack said. "Some species think they are better than others. The strong thing to do is walk away." "But you're strong. You were in the military." "Being strong means knowing when not to fight." Danny did not look convinced, but he nodded. Over the next few days, the harassment continued. Jack saw the same 3 juveniles following Danny through the station. They would make faces at him, block his path, and speak loudly about how weak humans were. Other aliens watched but said nothing. They were a powerful species, and nobody wanted to cause problems. Jack filed a formal complaint with station security. The officer, an adult named, looked at the report with barely hidden contempt. "Your offspring is too sensitive," said. "Our young are simply being playful. Perhaps humans need to develop thicker skin in both the literal and figurative sense." "They are deliberately harassing my son," Jack said, keeping his voice level. "This violates station protocols regarding civilian safety." "I see no evidence of actual harm," replied. "Words and gestures are not violence, Captain. If your species cannot handle social interaction with superior races, perhaps you should return to your little world." Jack placed both hands on the desk and leaned forward. I am filing this complaint through proper channels. I expect action to be taken. Waved a clawed hand dismissively. Your complaint is noted. Now leave my office. Jack left, but he made copies of everything and sent reports to Ambassador Hudson and to Earth's diplomatic corps. Kate Hudson called him to her office that evening. I saw your reports. They are pushing boundaries everywhere right now. They want to challenge our territorial claims near the cluster. This is about my son, not politics. Everything is politics here, Jack. You know that. She leaned back in her chair. I need you to keep your cool. The respect strength, but they are testing us. If we overreact, it gives them ammunition to call us aggressive and unpredictable. I am following every rule in the book. I know you are. Just remember that you are a diplomat now, not a soldier. Jack said nothing. Kate knew his history. She knew what he had done before taking this position. The Silent Blade program had been Earth's answer to threats that regular military could not handle. Operators who went where others could not go and did what others could not do. That night, Danny sat on the edge of his bed, quiet and withdrawn. Dad, why don't you do something? Those aliens keep following me. Today they knocked my data pad out of my hands. Jack sat beside his son. There are rules here. I follow rules. That is what separates us from people who just do whatever they want. But they can do whatever they want. No, they cannot, not forever. Jack put a hand on Danny's shoulder. Do you know what a honey badger is? Danny shook his head. It is a small animal from Earth. Most predators leave it alone because they learn that bothering a honey badger is a bad idea. The badger does not look for fights, but it does not back down either. And once you cross a certain line with a honey badger, it will make sure you regret it. Are we like honey badgers? Jack smiled slightly. We can be when we need to be, but only when someone crosses a line that should never be crossed. What line is that? You will know it when you see it, Jack said. Now get some sleep. The harassment did not stop. If anything, it got worse. Jack watched from across the plaza as the three juveniles blocked Danny's path again. His son tried to walk around them, but they moved to cut him off, clicking their amusement at his discomfort. Danny finally turned and went the other way, his shoulders hunched. Other species noticed. Jack saw them watching, then looking away. Nobody wanted to get involved. They had power, influence, and long memories for those who crossed them. Danny stopped going to the observation deck, his favorite place on the station. He stopped asking to visit the shops. Instead, he stayed in their quarters, reading on his data pad and counting the days until he could go home. This is exactly what they want, Jack told Ambassador Hudson during their daily meeting. They want to prove that humans do not belong here. Kate Hudson rubbed her temples. I know, I have been pushing this up the chain. The council is reviewing the situation. The council has been reviewing the situation for 6 days. Meanwhile, my son is afraid to leave our quarters. I am going to confront directly today, Kate said. In the diplomatic session, make it official and on the record. That might make things worse. It already is worse, Jack. We need to draw a line. The diplomatic session took place in the council chamber, a circular room where representatives from 40 species gathered to discuss policy and trade. Kate Hudson stood at the human delegation's podium and addressed directly. The delegation has failed to address the ongoing harassment of a human civilian, a child, despite multiple formal complaints. This behavior violates station protocols and the Council's charter regarding the safety of all member species. Rose from his seat, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. Ambassador Hudson, your species continues to demonstrate an inability to adapt to galactic standards. Our young are engaging in normal social behavior. If human offspring cannot handle simple interaction, perhaps humanity is not ready for the responsibilities of council membership. Several delegates murmured in agreement. Others remained silent. Normal social behavior does not include intimidation and physical harassment, Kate said, her voice sharp. I demand that the delegation take action to control their juveniles, or the human delegation will pursue formal sanctions. His laugh was a harsh clicking sound. Sanctions? Your species has been here for 5 years. You have no leverage, no allies, and no respect. We have been here for, if you cannot protect one small child on a secure diplomatic station, how do you expect to survive in the galaxy? The session ended with no resolution. Kate returned to her office and found Jack waiting for her. They are not going to help, she said flatly. The council does not want to antagonize the over what they see as a minor issue. A minor issue, Jack repeated, his voice cold. Kate looked at him carefully. I know that look. I have seen it before, back during the war. Jack had served under Kate's command during the Outer Colony conflicts. She had been a colonel then, leading operations against pirate fleets that threatened human settlements. Jack had been part of the Silent Blade teams, the ones who went in quietly and solved problems that regular soldiers could not touch. You are a diplomat now, Kate said. Not an operator, I need you to remember that. I remember, Jack said. I also remember that I am a father first. Later that day, an alien named approached Jack in one of the station's quieter corridors. The ambassador was small, with compound eyes that reflected multiple colors, and a reputation for understanding galactic politics better than most. Captain, may I speak with you? Of course, Ambassador. His mandibles clicked softly. I have observed the situation with your offspring. They are testing humanity. They wish to see if you will submit or react. What do you suggest? The culture values strength above all else. Your restraint is admirable, but they interpret it as weakness. To them, a strong parent would have already responded with violence to protect their young. I am following the rules. Yes, and that is why you will lose this confrontation if it continues on their terms. Tilted his head. I do not tell you what to do, Captain. I merely provide information. What you do with it is your decision. The ambassador walked away, leaving Jack alone with his thoughts. That evening, Danny did not return when expected. Jack went looking for him and found the boy in a viewing area on the lower level, tears on his face. The model spaceship Danny had been building lay scattered in pieces on the floor. What happened? Danny pointed at a corner where the three juveniles stood, watching with obvious satisfaction. They said if I did not give them the model, they would break it. I said no, so they took it and smashed it anyway. Then one of them pushed me. Jack saw the bruise forming on Danny's arm where rough scales had scraped the skin. Everything became very clear and very simple. Jack picked up the pieces of the model and put them in his pocket. Then he took Danny's hand and led him back to their quarters. He made sure his son had dinner and got ready for bed. He sat with Danny until the boy fell asleep. Then Jack left the quarters and walked through the station until he found Diplomatic's suite. He opened the door with a look of surprise that quickly turned to contempt. Captain, have you come to file another useless complaint? No, Jack said calmly. I came to give you a warning. Control your offspring or I will. His laugh was sharp. You dare to threaten a diplomat? You have no authority here, human. This station is neutral ground and you are bound by diplomatic protocols. I am bound by rules that I choose to follow, Jack said. But I am also a father. Your juveniles crossed a line today. They put their hands on my son. They hurt him. That changes things. What will you do? Stepped closer, his head lowered to bring his face level with Jack's. Will you attack? That would be an act of war. Your entire species would pay for your stupidity. Jack did not step back. He met eyes with the cold stare of a man who had killed before and would do so again if necessary. I am telling you to control them. That is the last warning you will receive. Get out of my quarters before I call security. Jack turned and walked away, but his mind was already working through scenarios and possibilities. He had been trained to assess threats and eliminate them with maximum efficiency. That training did not go away just because he wore a diplomatic uniform now. When he returned to his quarters, Danny was awake, sitting up in bed. Did you talk to them? Yes. Will they stop? Jack sat on the edge of the bed. I hope so, but if they do not, they will learn something important about humans. What? That we are like honey badgers. We try to be patient. We follow the rules. But there is a line, Danny. When someone hurts our family, when they cross that line, we do not just get angry. We become something different, something that does not stop until the threat is gone. Are you a honey badger, Dad? For 3 days, the juveniles kept their distance. Jack saw them in the plaza and corridors, but they did not approach Danny. Perhaps had spoken to them. Perhaps they had finally learned some sense. Jack allowed himself to hope that the situation had resolved itself. He was wrong. Danny had gone to the educational center to watch a presentation on stellar formation. Jack had cleared it with security and confirmed the route was safe. The boy would walk through the main corridors, all of them well lit and monitored. But Danny took a wrong turn. The presentation had moved to a different room, and Danny followed the signs to the new location. The path led through a maintenance corridor on the lower level, a service area where few civilians went. The three juveniles had been waiting. Station security found Danny 20 minutes later, sitting against a wall and holding his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. The security officer, a gray-skinned, called for medical assistance and then contacted Jack. Jack ran through the station at a speed that made other species jump out of his way. He reached the medical bay as the doctor, a multi-limbed, finished treating the wound. "It is not deep," the doctor said in her clicking voice. "The cut required sealing, but there will be no permanent damage. Your offspring was fortunate." Jack knelt beside the medical bed where Danny sat, pale and shaking. "What happened?" "They were waiting for me," Danny said quietly. "They blocked the corridor. I tried to go back the other way, but they surrounded me. The tall one said they were tired of warnings. He said humans needed to learn their place." Danny's voice broke. "Then he scratched me with his claw. It hurt, Dad. It really hurt." "Did they say anything else?" Danny nodded. "They said next time they would finish what they started. They told me to run back to my weak father." Jack stood up slowly. The doctor stepped back, recognizing something dangerous in the human stillness. Ambassador Kate Hudson arrived, breathing hard from her run through the station. She saw the blood on Danny's shirt and the expression on Jack's face. "Jack, do not do anything stupid. I need to take care of this. Through proper channels. We file charges, we push the council, we make this a diplomatic incident that they cannot ignore." Jack looked at her. "How long will that take?" "Days, maybe weeks. And in the meantime, my son is a target. They already said there would be a next time. I will assign security to Danny, full-time protection." "That is not enough." Jack walked toward the door. Kate grabbed his arm. "You are a diplomat now. You have responsibilities. If you do something violent, it will not just affect you. It will affect all of humanity's standing in the council." Jack gently removed her hand from his arm. "I tried it your way, Kate. I filed complaints. I followed protocols. I gave warnings. My son just bled because of it. Some things are more important than politics." "Jack, please." But he was already gone. Jack returned to his quarters and went to his bedroom. In the back of his closet, behind the diplomatic uniforms and civilian clothes, sat a sealed case that he had not opened since arriving at the station 2 years ago. He placed his thumb on the biometric lock. The case opened with a soft hiss. Inside were items from his previous life. Specialized tools, secure communication devices, data storage with intelligence files, and a small weapon that had no official name but had saved his life more than once. He did not take the weapon. He would not need it. He took the data storage and plugged it into his personal terminal. Files appeared on the screen. Station schematics, security protocols, species physiological data. Everything he had quietly collected during his time here, information that a security officer would naturally have access to, but organized in a way that only a silent blade operator would think to do. He studied the data, bone structure, muscle density, nerve cluster locations, reaction times, weaknesses. A knock on his door interrupted his research. He opened it to find the ambassador. "Captain, may I enter?" Jack stepped aside, walked into the quarters and looked around, his compound eyes taking in everything. "I heard about your offspring. I am sorry." "Thank you. I also heard that you visited the medical bay and then came here with great purpose." His mandibles clicked softly. "I will not ask what you plan to do, but I will tell you something that may help. They have no concept of proportional response. They understand only dominance and submission. If you respond with equal force, they see it as weakness. If you respond with overwhelming force, they see it as strength." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because what happens in the next few hours may determine how every species in this sector views humanity. They have been testing all of us for years, pushing boundaries, seeing who will submit. Nobody has stood up to them because they fear the consequences." Turned toward the door. "But perhaps someone needs to show them that consequences work both ways." After left, Jack received a communication from. This face appeared on his screen, scales bright with satisfaction. "I heard about the unfortunate incident with your offspring, Captain. These things happen when younglings play too roughly. I trust there are no hard feelings." Jack said nothing for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm and level. "We need to talk in person." "More complaints, more useless protests." "No, a different kind of conversation, one I think you need to hear." Laughed. "Very well. Meet me in conference room 7 in 1 hour. It is private and away from the main areas. We can have your conversation without interruption." "I will be there." Jack closed the connection and continued his preparations. He changed out of his uniform and into simple clothes. He reviewed the station map one more time, memorizing every corridor and exit near conference room 7. Then he walked through the station with the calm purpose of a man who had made a decision and would not be swayed from it. He reached conference room 7 exactly on time. The door slid open, revealing standing near the window, his back to the entrance. "Captain, you actually came. I thought you might lose your courage." Jack entered the room, the door closed behind him. Turned around and saw something in Jack's eyes that made him pause. The human looked different somehow. The diplomatic mask was gone, replaced by something cold and patient and absolutely certain. "I wanted to explain something to you," Jack said quietly. "You have been operating under a reach for his communication device. His clawed hand never made it." Jack moved faster than the thought possible. One moment the human stood 3 meters away. The next moment he was right there, his hand locked around wrist with surprising strength. "We are going to talk," Jack said. "No interruptions." Tried to pull away, but Jack's grip did not loosen. With his other hand, Jack reached past and pressed the door lock. The control panel beeped and the door sealed shut. "What do you think you are doing?" demanded. "I will call security." "No, you will not." Jack released the wrist and stepped back, but he positioned himself between and the door. "You wanted to know if I was weak. Let me answer that question. You are threatening a diplomat on neutral ground. This is madness." "I am educating you," Jack said. "You made assumptions about me based on my restraint. You thought following rules meant I was incapable of breaking them. That was your first mistake." Scales bristled, a sign of aggression among his species. "I am not afraid of you, human." "You should be." Jack's voice remained calm, almost conversational. "Before I took this position, I worked for Earth's military, not the regular forces, a special unit called Silent Blade. We handled problems that regular soldiers could not solve. We went places we were not supposed to go. We did things that officially never happened." "So you were an assassin. That changes nothing." "It changes everything," Jack said, "because it means I know exactly how to kill you. I know that have a nerve cluster at the base of their skull, right where your spine meets your head. I know that your scales are thickest on your chest but thin near your joints. I know that your reaction time is 0.7 seconds, which is faster than most species but not faster than me." Took a step back. "You would not dare." "I would not because I choose not to. There is a difference." Jack moved to his right and instinctively moved left, maintaining distance. "Do you know how many times I could have killed you in our previous encounters? 3 times in your office when you dismissed my complaints, twice in the diplomatic chamber when you mocked my species, once in the corridor when we passed each other yesterday." "You are lying." "Am I?" Jack described each situation in detail, explaining exactly how he could have disabled guards, approached undetected, and ended this life before anyone knew what happened. He spoke with the technical precision of someone who had done such things before. Scales lost some of their color. The human was not boasting or threatening. He was simply stating facts, the way a teacher might explain mathematics to a student. "I did not do any of those things," Jack continued, "because I follow rules, because I believe in diplomacy, because I wanted to give you every chance to do the right thing." His voice hardened. "But you hurt my son, you had him cut and threatened. That is a different matter entirely." "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something very clearly. If any touches my son again, if anyone threatens him, if anyone even looks at him wrong, I will stop being a diplomat. I will become what I used to be, and you will learn why Earth's enemies feared the Silent Blade teams." Jack moved to the door and unlocked it. "This is your only warning. Use it wisely." He walked out, leaving standing alone in the conference room, shaking with a mixture of rage and fear. Word spread quickly through the delegation. The juveniles heard that the human father had confronted. They heard that threats had been made. But they were young and foolish, and they believed their elders' assurances that humans were weak. More importantly, Pride had been wounded. A human had intimidated him, had made him feel afraid in his own space. That could not stand. He would teach this human a lesson about respecting the. That night gave his offspring clear instructions. They were to enter the human's quarters and terrify the child. Not harm him seriously, just scare him badly enough that the father would understand the consequences of threatening a. The three juveniles moved through the station at the darkest part of the cycle, when most species were sleeping. They had stolen security codes from their father's files. The door to the quarters opened silently. Inside, the living area was dark. They moved toward the bedroom where the human child slept, their claws extended, ready to wake him with a fright he would never forget. They never reached the bedroom. The station's internal sensors in that section went offline. A technical malfunction, the logs would later show. 4 minutes of darkness with no recording, no monitoring, no data. When the sensors came back online, 3 juveniles lay unconscious on the floor of the living area. Their limbs were restrained with security ties. None of them had serious injuries, but all of them would wake with considerable pain. Jack sat in a chair near the door, perfectly calm, when station security arrived 5 minutes later. The security chief, unnamed, looked at the scene with wide eyes. What happened here? 3 individuals broke into my quarters, Jack said calmly. I defended my home and my son. Everything I did was within station protocols for dealing with home invasion. I used appropriate force to subdue the intruders without causing permanent harm. How did the sensors go offline? I have no idea. Perhaps you should check your maintenance records. Ambassador Kate Hudson arrived shortly after, along with representatives from a dozen delegations who had heard about the incident. The delegates demanded that Jack be arrested immediately for assault. The ambassador requested a formal review of the evidence before any charges were filed. Several other ambassadors agreed. The security footage from the corridor showed 3 juveniles bypassing a locked door without authorization. The door logs confirmed they had entered the quarters without permission or invitation. Jack's own security system, which was legal for diplomatic personnel, had recorded the entire incident from the moment they entered. The recording showed 3 advancing toward a bedroom where a child slept. It showed Jack stepping out of the shadows and blocking their path. It showed them attacking him with claws extended. It showed Jack defending himself with precise, controlled movements that left them unconscious but alive. The station's legal counsel reviewed the footage for 2 hours. The ruling was clear and unambiguous. Captain acted within his rights under station law. Any resident may use reasonable force to defend against unlawful entry into their private quarters. The force used was proportional to the threat. No charges will be filed. The delegation protested loudly. Other ambassadors pointed out that they had clearly violated multiple laws and protocols. If anyone should face charges, it was for sending his offspring to break into another delegate's home. Was forced to issue a formal apology. His offspring were confined to the diplomatic quarters. The delegation faced official censure from the council. Jack returned to his quarters to find Danny awake, sitting at the table. Did you hurt them, Dad? I stopped them from hurting you. Are we like honey badgers now? The incident changed everything. Within hours, every delegation on the station knew what had happened. 3 juveniles had broken into a human's quarters and been subdued without permanent injury, but with absolute efficiency. The security footage, though brief, told a clear story. Jack was not just a diplomat. He was something far more dangerous when his family was threatened. Species that had previously dismissed humanity began asking questions. What else could humans do? What other capabilities did they hide behind their diplomatic smiles and patient negotiations? Ambassador called for a special session of the Galactic Council. He stood at his podium and addressed the assembled delegates with his usual careful precision. For weeks we have watched the test humanity. They harassed a child, they ignored complaints, they escalated to violence, and through it all the humans showed restraint. His mandibles clicked softly. But restraint is not weakness, it is strength under control. Captain demonstrated something that many of us had forgotten. Humans prefer peace, but they are fully capable of war. They follow rules, but they will break those rules to protect their own. This is not a flaw. This is why they survived on their difficult world long enough to reach the stars. Several delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. They have learned a valuable lesson, continued. I suggest the rest of us learn it as well. Humanity should not be underestimated. That afternoon, the delegation their territorial challenges in the cluster. They cited a need to review their expansion policies, but everyone understood the real reason. They did not want further conflict with a species that had just proven itself willing to respond to aggression. Ambassador Kate Hudson gave a formal address to the council the next day. She stood tall at the human podium, her voice clear and strong. Humanity seeks peaceful relations with all species. We believe in diplomacy, in following established laws and protocols, in resolving disputes through conversation rather than violence. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we also believe in protecting our people, especially our children. We come from a world that taught us to cooperate and to fight with equal skill. We learned these lessons over thousands of years of war and peace, conflict and harmony. We bring both capabilities to the galaxy, and we will use whichever one the situation requires. Several ambassadors applauded. Others simply watched with new respect in their eyes. Danny recovered quickly from his ordeal. Children were resilient, and knowing his father had protected him helped him move past the fear. A few days after the incident, he returned to his favorite spot on the observation deck. He was not alone for long. A young approached him cautiously, followed by two other children from different species. They held out a small device that projected holographic images. "Hello, my name is. Would you like to see pictures of my home world?" Danny smiled, the first genuine smile he had shown in days. "Yes, that would be great." The children sat together, looking at images and telling stories. Other young aliens watched from a distance and saw that Danny was no longer alone. One by one, they approached to join the group. Later asked Danny a question. "Is your father really that dangerous?" Danny thought about it. "My dad is really that protective. There is a difference." "I do not understand." "He is only dangerous to people who try to hurt his family. To everyone else, he is just my dad." His mandibles clicked in what might have been a laugh. "I think I would like to meet him someday." "He would like that," Danny said. Jack returned to his regular duties the following week. He walked through the station in his security uniform, checking systems and monitoring the diplomatic areas. Other species security personnel now greeted him with respectful nods. Some even asked him for advice on defensive tactics. The security chief approached him in the main plaza. "Captain, I reviewed the footage from your quarters many times. Your movements were very precise. You knew exactly where to strike and how much force to use." "Training," Jack said simply. "Perhaps you could share some of that training with my team. We could all benefit from learning human defensive techniques." "I would be happy to help." On the 5th day after the incident, an elder named Al requested a private meeting with Jack. Unlike this was old, his scales faded with age, his movements slow but dignified. They met in a neutral conference room. Al bowed his head slightly, a sign of respect among his people. "Captain, I come to apologize on behalf of the people. What happened to your offspring was shameful. What allowed to happen was a disgrace to our culture." "I appreciate that, Ambassador." "I have a question, if you will permit it. How did you remain calm for so long? How did you endure the harassment without responding immediately?" Jack considered the question. "Anyone can act in anger. That is easy. Choosing when to act, waiting for the right moment that requires discipline. My training taught me to control my responses. My son taught me why that control matters." "Believed your patience was fear. He was wrong." "Yes, he was." Al clicked his approval. "Our young will learn from this. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it." After the elder left, Jack received a message from Ambassador Hudson asking him to come to her office. Kate stood by her window, looking out at the stars. "The council has approved a promotion for you, Chief of Security for the entire human delegation across this sector. It comes with a significant pay increase and more authority." "I appreciate the offer, but I will decline." Kate turned to look at him. "Why, you earned it." "Because my current position lets me protect people directly. That is what I want to do, especially my son." "You could protect more people with a higher rank." "Maybe, but Danny is here, and this is where I need to be." Kate smiled. "I expected you to say that. For what it is worth, I think you made the right choice." The story of what happened on the diplomatic station spread throughout the galactic community. Traders carried it to distant worlds. Diplomats shared it in their reports. The tale grew with each telling, but the core message remained the same. Humans were not to be underestimated. They preferred peace but would choose violence when necessary. They followed rules until those rules failed to protect their families. And once a line was crossed, they became something that even the most powerful species learned to respect. Some species began calling humans the honey badgers of the galaxy, a reference to the small Earth creature that most predators wisely avoided. The name stuck. Ambassador shared a drink with Jack one evening in the station's quiet bar. They raised his glass in a toast. To humanity's place in the galaxy, now secure. "I never wanted to be feared," Jack said. "Perhaps not, but you have achieved something more valuable. You have earned respect. Other species now know that humans can be trusted as allies and feared as enemies. That is a powerful combination." Jack thought about his son, now making friends with alien children who would have ignored him before. He thought about the complaints that no longer needed to be filed, the harassment that had ended completely, the safety that Danny could now take for granted. "If that is what it takes to keep my son safe, then I accept it." The next day, Danny gave a presentation to his class back on Earth via video link. His teacher had asked him to talk about his experience on the diplomatic station. "I learned that different species have different ideas about strength," Danny said to his classmates. "Some think strength means never backing down, but my dad taught me that real strength is knowing when to be patient and when to act. He showed me that protecting people you love is more important than following rules that do not work, and he proved that humans might be new to the galaxy, but we belong here." That evening, Jack and Danny stood at the observation deck, watching ships arrive and depart from the station. Lights moved against the backdrop of stars, each one carrying people and cargo to distant worlds. "Dad, will they ever try again?" Jack put his hand on his son's shoulder. "Some lessons only need to be taught once. They learned that we protect our children with absolute conviction. They learned that crossing certain lines has consequences. I do not think they will forget. What if another species tries something? Then they will learn the same lesson. But I do not think they will. Word travels fast in the galaxy. By now, everyone knows about humans and honey badgers." Danny smiled and leaned against his father. Together, they watched the stars, knowing that humanity's place among them was no longer in question. The line had been drawn, the lesson had been taught, and the galaxy would remember. Jack sat down across from his son. "We were always honey badgers, Danny. Some people just needed to learn that lesson." Outside, the station began to whisper about what had happened, and the galaxy started to understand something new about humans. "You think I am weak because I followed the rules. You think I am helpless because I did not respond with violence." "Yes," said, "that is exactly what I think." "Then let me correct your mistake," Jack said and took a step forward. Suddenly felt the room grow smaller, as if the walls were closing in. He recognized the feeling from his youth, when he had first encountered a predator on his home world and realized he was no longer the hunter. He was the prey. Jack smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "When I need to be." Danny lay back down, and Jack turned off the lights. He stood by the window for a long time, watching the stars and thinking about lines that should never be crossed. Tomorrow, he decided, would reveal whether they were smart enough to learn from warnings. Somehow he doubted it. As Danny drifted off, Jack stood by the window and looked out at the stars. He had been patient. He had followed the rules. He had done everything the diplomatic way. But he was also a father, and there were some things that mattered more than politics. Out in the corridor, he heard the clicking laughter of young passing by. Jack's jaw tightened, and he turned away from the window. Some lessons, he thought, could only be taught one way.